Hi, everyone. It's Jenny Bayless with Envision Advisors, and I am going solo again today. Chris is still on vacation, so I hope he's having a great time there. But I just wanted to talk about some realizations that I had while doing a renovation recently, actually, two renovations. We had two pretty major renovations going on this summer. Not necessarily planned. I guess one was partially planned, the other one not really. So I think it was good to kind of brush off the cobwebs for my renovation knowledge, because it's been a few years since I've undertaken a project. Just kind of go in and share some of the things that I've learned this summer, and just kind of just keep that in the back of your mind when you're doing a renovation on your rental properties. So we got 5 tips that I want to share with everyone. So the first one, so for those of you listening on the podcast, I do have pictures. So you may want to check out the YouTube video. The blog will have the photos as well. But I have a picture of the same bathroom. On the left, we have a older bathtub. It's quite large, has lots of ridges in it. I'm not sure. I guess that was the style back then. And then we have just, some regular tiles. They've seen better days. We did a glaze a couple years ago, and the glaze is starting to show its age. So we went ahead and wanted to just totally redo everything. And we'll go into this in more detail once we're doing a different YouTube channel on this in detail, but just kind of going into the specifics of this particular realization that we had is that when you go behind the walls in any renovation, you're probably going to find a surprise. I think it was a little naive of myself to think that I wasn't going to find a surprise. I figured, it would be easy, just swap out tile, swap out a tub. No, unfortunately, that it was not as straightforward as that. When the contractor removed the tiles and tub to make way for this, on the right side of this photo, the more modern style tub and tile that we have here, apparently there was no backer board in which the older tiles were installed on. So that made a delay in the construction, of course, because the contractor then had to peel back, everything that kind of got damaged in the process of removing those tiles, and then put up the backer board and, do things the right way. And I think that it's really just kind of one of those situations where when the work was originally done, that was probably the correct way to do it. But in today's standards, it's appropriate to put tiles on backer board. So it's just one example of when we thought the solution would be straightforward, but when you kind of peel back the layers, this is an old home. You're going to find more things that weren't done to today's standards. So you have to take a pause, rewind, and, take a couple steps back and do it right this time. And then kind of in that same vein, we've noticed that for both houses, if there is a leak, there's probably more leaks. Basically any sort of water source. It was kind of an interesting situation, especially on the house that we're doing right now. The bathroom is adjacent to the laundry room. I'm guessing whoever installed the plumbing in that home didn't do a great job at one point, and it was just lots of corroded plumbing material. We had to take care of all of that to prevent any future issues on that. So just kind of wanted to highlight that. So moving on, I learned a really big difference between a yard mow versus a cleanup versus an overhaul. So in this photo on the left, for those of you that are just listening, it looks like a jungle in the yard, unfortunately. And then on the right, we had someone do a really nice job. They cleaned up the yard and lay down mulch. So it looks much nicer now that they spent a few days taking care of that. So when you get from the mowing to the cleanup to an overhaul, which is what I'm going to show in a minute, that's when things start to change in terms of price and effort. So mowing and cleanup, that's, kind of reasonable in terms of time and effort. But once you do an overhaul, that's when things get a little bit different. And that's kind of new for us. I'm not sure that we've done an overhaul for any of our properties until we did one this summer. So um, I have a photo where we did an overhaul on our property. It's a 120-year-old home, so that also means that it has 120 years worth of debris hidden just beneath the surface. So that was kind of news to us. So over on the left, you can see that there are like massive dirt mounds that we have over here. Luckily over on the right, it looks really nice. Now they just laid down rock, but apparently to be able to get the yard even, they had to rototill and just kind of dig up. And in the course of doing that, they unearthed lots of like old brick and trash and wires and all sorts of annoying things. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind that, there might have been a better way to go about doing this, but I think kind of once we got too far down and, down the path of doing it this way by getting the ground level and packed and then putting the rocks on top, that's kind of how this ended up being. So as I mentioned, the landscaper ended up scooping up 120 years worth of debris, we'll say that. And we ended up with 3 giant dirt piles. So this ended up turning into a bit of a saga, actually. It was something that we were not expecting to have to deal with. I never would have thought that piles of dirt would have gotten under my skin so much, but definitely did. So we have 3 giant piles. 2 are outside the yard, 1 are inside the yard. It was very difficult to find anyone who is willing to take on the project of removing the dirt piles. I had no idea that that was a difficult task. It definitely is a very difficult task to find someone who has the proper equipment and is willing to do it. And I guess most importantly, knows where to put it, because I learned that all trash is not created equal. And there is a certain, disposal rules for all sorts of trash. And when they're intermixed, like in this case, it presents a difficult situation. So just kind of going through kind of our saga on this, the first pile, we paid someone who said that they would be able to take all 3 of them out. They only took 1 out, and then we never heard from them again. So that's a bit of a sore subject. And then we found someone who took a look at the remaining 2 piles. They said that they would be able to take care of those, but they were unfortunately only able to take care of the interior pile, which we were thankful for that. They were very helpful in kind of directing us for the next steps for the third and final pile. So that at least got us on the right path. And then for that last pile, we were able to find someone who thankfully needed infill for land that they owned. So they took that and put it in their land so that there wasn't the issue of, I guess, the trash and disposal issues that everyone else was up against. So never thought that 3 piles of dirt would be so difficult, but definitely was. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're going to undergo a landscaping project. Consider the cleanup versus the overhaul. I would probably just try to go for a cleanup subsequently to this, because this was a giant pain in the butt. So going on to the next topic. So right now I'm showing a photo of the same home and really just kind of emphasizing the fact that just changing out your paint and your flooring does wonders to a project. So on the left, I have, remnants of a wood wall. We got a blood red wall, all sorts of weird stuff going on the left, flooring that ripped up carpet and all that good stuff. Then on the right, painted walls and laminate floors. So nothing really of substance, changed in these two photos, except for the fact that we painted the walls and laid down new flooring. So it's very interesting how big of an improvement that can do to a home. It just changes the whole kind of aesthetic to a home. And if you're on a tight budget, I really recommend considering paint and floor if you had to prioritize in terms of like projects to undertake. All right. So the next photo here, I have a picture of beautiful backsplash that we have. Very extensive backsplash that we have. So basically it is a hexagon, a white hexagon pattern with, dark gray grout. I thought that I was so smart by finding this tile because it's very modern, it's very sleek. It was moderately cheap. I think it was about $2 a sheet. And I thought, oh, this is going to be the perfect backsplash product. Well, I totally failed to consider the fact that, yes, on the material side of things, that was a very good deal. But I did not consider the fact that there's the labor piece to it as well. So for those of you that are able to see this photo, you can see that the tile is extremely tiny and intricate, and my contractor had to saw each and every one of those pieces to fit. I have no idea how they did that. It would have taken me, a year to figure that out. Thankfully, it didn't take them that long. But it definitely tacked on quite a bit extra to my overall budget for the kitchen because of the labor piece to it, because it took them probably 3 days longer than they thought that they were going to have to take had I picked out a better or I guess an easier tile. So next time I will just pick a subway tile and be done with it. And consider labor and materials as a package, opposed to just looking at the materials. So that was a mistake on my part. Definitely learned my lesson on that. And then the next one is not necessarily something that I've learned on a renovation, but I think that it's something that I learned in terms of self-management, that I highly, highly recommend to everyone who's self-managing out there. And that is to get a 3D tour taken of your property. We always, our team, we use 3D tours for our listings, but I don't know why I never thought of it to take one for a rental property until fairly recently. So we've had a couple of turnovers this year, and I went ahead and bit the bullet for getting professional photos taken of the property. And for a small upcharge, I think it was less than $100, I was able to do an add-on feature of getting a 3D tour. And basically what this does is it allows the potential tenants to see, like, drag their mouse and look all around the home. They're able to do a virtual walk of the home so they can see how it's laid out much better than you can from piecing together photos, that sort of thing. I think there's like a measurement tool in there so they can see, oh, is this room too small? Is this not going to work for me? So it's worked really well, especially, in these times. You don't want a lot of people over to your properties if they're not really interested. So I think that it's really good, especially being able to cut down on questions. So that's one of the first things that it's in the listing itself, but then when people inquire, one of the first things we do is say, hey, make sure you check out this 3D tour first. It will answer so many questions that it saves time as, self-management on that end. You don't have to answer the same question 100 times. People can take a look at it and really decide for themselves. Yes, this fits what I'm looking for. No, this is not the house for me. So I highly, highly recommend. It's a really cheap option. And I think that it's very, very helpful. So I'm glad that we started doing that this year. I will probably do it on every turnover from now on, just so that I have that on record and, people can take a look and I don't have to answer the same questions 100 times. So, of course, after they take a look at that, we then require pre-screening questions to show them the home in person, just, as another layer of making sure that everyone is the right fit for everyone in that case. So yeah, thanks for sticking through this with me, kind of going through what I have learned this summer in the course of doing some of these rehabs. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. It's Jenny at envisionrea.com. All right, talk soon.